All right, good morning, everyone. This is Anna Jenkins, Marketing Coordinator at Core BTS, and welcome to today's webinar, Putting It All Together, Your Unified Data Center. We would like to make this an interactive session this morning, so throughout our presentation, we encourage you to interact with us by typing in questions and comments using the Q&A pane in the WebEx Event Center. We'll be answering questions live during the event, and we'll leave time at the end to answer any questions as well. Today on our panel, we have Clayton Potter, a Core BTS Data Center Solutions Architect, and at this time, I will pass the ball to Clayton to get us started.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Clayton Potter. I'm a Senior Solutions Architect with Core. Today we're going to be talking about Unified Data Center. Let's go down the agenda here. After the introduction, we'll talk about what is Unified Data Center. We'll talk about ACI and SDN and what that actually means. We'll talk about converged and hyperconverged a little bit. We're going to talk about challenges with data center. We'll talk about delivering IT as a service and what that entails with a unified data center in terms of management, unified fabric, and unified computing. We'll talk about some solutions. We'll actually look at a couple of diagrams of data centers. And then at the end, we'll wrap it up with the journey to the cloud, because unified data center basically enables your IT organization to enable cloud strategies. So first things first. Like I said, I'm a senior architect here, and we're going to talk about what is unified data center. Unified data center, first off, we probably ought to talk a little bit about data center and why the data center is important. The data center is critical to the way IT generates and delivers value to business. A variety of business and technology factors are driving the changes in data center today, the changes that are to deliver new services that users demand. Preparing the data center to be more cost-effective and efficiently support new operating models is essential. The reality is that IT budgets and available resources are pretty fixed, and the majority of those resources are consumed by maintaining the IT structure that's already there. So this approach to creation of a unified data center is something we're going to talk about that will help redefine the economics of data center so that we can spend more time, more resources delivering value and innovation to the business. We'll talk about unified data center solutions that simplify IT, that create operational efficiencies and enable business agility. Okay, that's a big mouthful, right? So let's talk a little bit about unified data center. The unified data center model really provides an architecture that includes the things we need to provide these business efficiencies. Unified data center combines compute, storage, network, and management into one platform. And when we talk about one platform, we're not necessarily talking about just a hyper-converged platform, but more of a management and an interface platform. Unified data centers are designed to automate IT as a service. We'll talk a little bit about what IT as a service really means. Having a unified data center model provides budget efficiency because it stabilizes how we build the data center. It will give agile responsiveness. And you go, okay, what does that mean? What that means is that the users, the end users, don't have to wait on IT to build and deploy an environment. The environment will already exist, being ready to respond to business needs. And because of the first four pieces that we've talked about, by rolling this into a single platform that's responsive, we're going to be able to simplify IT operations. Any questions up to now? All right, let's move on. So, as I started with in the agenda, we're going to talk about ACI and SDN. Good questions are, what is this? Well, ACI is a Cisco-specific term. ACI is a comprehensive SDN architecture that's a Cisco-specific type of architecture. This policy is it's policy-based automation solution that supports business-relevant applications, policies, language, greater scalability, all of these things. The benefit of it is that it's achieved through an integration of physical and virtual environments under one model. All of the resources come under that one model. Cisco ACI, Cisco tends to put a layer inside the network where these services are concentrated. And I'll show a design of that when we get to that point. Now, ACI is Cisco's term for SDN. What is SDN? The software-defined networking. It's an approach to networking that allows IT staff, the administrators, to manage network services through an abstraction or a virtualization of functionality, i.e., putting all the resources together in one location and making them available so that applications and programs, the software, has an ability, you have the ability then to deploy that software in the network. Both abstract concepts, it's a result of many pieces, and we'll talk about some of those pieces. So, what does it look like? In the design, if you look on the slide, it looks fairly complex. This is what SDN looks like if we map it out. You can see the applications. You can see how it's controlled, the interface, and you can see the network pieces, the elements that make up the structure that supports the applications and is managed by the control, the SDN control. This is generic. This is again at a application layer that we're looking at it, not necessarily at a hardware layer. And so SDN, we look at the applications, and you see they're at the top of the diagram. They're driving what is being done. We go down, we head south into the interfaces that controls how these applications are delivered, and then down further into the interfaces of the data plane or the hardware itself, hardware and virtualization software that supports it. This is how SDN looks conceptually. Now, let's look at Unified Data Center. I'm going to use an example. I'm going to use Cisco as an example, but many manufacturers have their version of Unified Data Center. So let's just take a look at Cisco's take on Unified Data Center. Unified Data Center, again, is just a platform for delivering IT as a service. And meaning delivering it as a service is it's readily available, and IT doesn't have to generate and build out new infrastructures. It's already there, ready to be deployed as a software or application needs it. So, in Cisco's model, we need unified management. Unified management also makes up the automation, i.e. everything is already ready to be delivered, so the automation is the configuration of both physical and virtual resources to be delivered. The unified fabric is the actual structure behind it that makes up those parts that are delivered. The network the fabric and the management of that. And then unified computing is actually the elements that provide the platform for the applications and the services to live on. Altogether, this makes Unified Data Center. Any questions on that? This is this is Cisco's take on it. Other manufacturers do very similar things.
Okay, so this slide is conventional data center architecture look. And you can see the core switch in the middle, and then the other switches, aggregation switches and so forth coming off of that, with storage and servers in the normal environment. And then, of course, connectivity out to the internet and to other locations. The problem, or not problem, but the limitation of a conventional data center is that there is no easy way for the end users, the business units, the other parts of a company that have applications, processes, software that needs to be implemented or put into production, or even just tested. There's no easy way for them to gain resources. So with the unified data center design, that becomes more of a service, IT as a service for those sorts of users. With this design, when those type of users want resources, they have to make a request to IT. IT has to allocate server space if there is some, or add new servers to the mix. Also, they've got to add storage if there isn't any, or allocate storage if there is, and then provision the software, set it all up. This can take time, and it can cost resources in terms of people, network, CPU, RAM, storage. So with the conventional design, it isn't very agile. It doesn't provide IT as a service. It really doesn't lend itself to cloud. So again, when we look at unified data center, it allows us to do all of those sorts of things. So the next slide, we're going to look at a unified data center design and the type of structure that will allow us to make best use of that.
This is an example of a Cisco data center. We're going to call it 3.0 design. The big difference between a conventional and the unified is this layer right in the middle, where you see all these lines crossing, where you see the service layer. These are devices. Cisco likes to use specific devices that provide that unified fabric, the unified management, and ties the unified computing together. So this service layer, in this case, in this drawing, these are Cisco 9000 series devices that are sitting here, provide that interface. All the rest of the network very much looks like a conventional network, but it takes these silos of infrastructure out of play, because now we have one management point that can take the available resources, that's aware of the available resources, and can allow specific business units to deploy their softwares and their processes without having to wait for IT to deliver them. They're ready to be delivered. So that's where the IT as a service comes in. It's like going to the deli and buying just the specific pieces you need that you want for lunch. Here, this service layer allows the business units to get just the specific pieces they need for their process, for their application, what their software requires. Okay, so let's move on. Data center challenges. I know this slide is wordy. And I'm not going to read it all to you, and I don't expect you to have to try to fight through it. Basically, because of a variety of virtualization, computing, storage, cloud technologies that have entered the market to help increase scalability and flexibility of the data center, each of these new technologies, these new layers of performance product, also add layers of complexity and make agility more difficult. Today, probably 70–80% of all IT expenses are allocated to maintaining these things that are providing data center challenges. So there's not a lot of resources to be innovative and competitive in terms of business applications. Successful IT has to find opportunities to increase their productivity and to be innovative without increasing costs. Most people, most IT professionals today believe the best way to increase this value to business is to be able to enable and deliver IT as a service, to provide agility. So IT as a service, and to some extent also cloud computing, hold great promise. So when we look at the strategies, technology silos, inefficient design, inconsistent service delivery, not being set up to be able to deliver IT as a service, and incompatible systems, having systems that don't talk well with each other and work well with each other, but they're legacy or they are necessary in the existing environments. These things all present challenges. So if anyone has other challenges they'd like to talk about, feel free to send in a question or a note, and I'll we can address them, because these are just highlights. So our strategy needs to be something different, and that's where Unified Data Center comes in. The ability to add ACI and SDN, IT as a service, to a data center, not necessarily just going to cloud or going to convergence or hyperconvergence, but in terms of being able to deliver software, deliver applications as a service, so that business units can be more effective, more agile, deploy quicker. These things are the very challenges we're facing, and how to resolve them is going to be, again, looking at adopting Unified Data Center as a platform. Now let's look at some solutions here. Now with Unified Data Center, these the idea of the unified management solution, we need strategy, we need availability, we need reliability, ease of deployment, low total cost of ownership, supportability. Now in supportability, that particular bullet, we're talking about IT and users, business users, being able to be supported, not just equipment or serviceability. It's not the typical SNS. This is supportability from the user, from the business user, the owner. Security. And security is all-encompassing, not just always got a firewall or do we have encryption. It's all security completely and holistically wrapped into the solution, so that the end user, when they get their service from ACI, SDN, Unified Data Center, that the security is an integral and built-in part of the solution. And then cloud capability. We'll talk a little bit more about cloud, but cloud really takes several forms when we look at Unified Data Center. Private internal cloud, the data center itself being the cloud and the business units being the users of that cloud. Private and public clouds, where the Unified Data Center will have links to available private and public cloud services. A private cloud that is off-site, that may be a secondary data center to the main Unified Data Center. Again, various types of cloud. I think one thing to define for this is that as we look at automation in unified management that the cloud is really a self-service portal into the unified data center. So whether it's internal, public, or private, or complete external, like a service like Amazon Web Services or Azure with Microsoft, that the cloud is designed to work heterogeneously with this IT environment. So regardless of the type of cloud, we're still looking at an intelligent way to automate IT as a service. So this platform lends itself to that. So the main 8 points are what we're looking at to provide that unified management, but ultimately the bottom line is deliver IT as a service as self-service online, so that there is no here's what we want and then wait for IT to then go through the whole process of building out systems to be made available to the end users. This method of the unified data center allows IT to be basically the company's internal service provider. Questions? Any questions on that? I'd be happy to go over in more detail how unified management solutions work to deliver IT as a service. All right then, let's go on to the next slide. Journey to the cloud. Now we talked a little bit about unified data center. And unified data center, if done correctly, provides a internal cloud for your IT customers. So when we talk about the journey to the cloud, we have to look at internally the virtualization platform that your business is using, the network platform, and the compute platform. In Cisco's model of the unified data center, that unified management, the unified fabric, and the unified computing all make up those platforms. So when you're looking at, as a company, how to get ready to go to the cloud, your cloud may be completely internal. So some questions that you want to ask yourself and ask your company is, do you leverage private and public cloud today outside of your internal cloud? Can your staff support this hybrid environment? Now consider that. There are some challenges, particularly in security, in connectivity, in bandwidth, in production environments, test and dev environments, DR environments. So all of these things you have to ask yourselves, because there is an associated support with maintaining that hybrid environment. And last but certainly not least, probably the most important, is, are you ready for ACI or SDN? Are you ready to, is your company ready? Are the business units ready for IT as a service, to have that self-service support for their applications, for their processes? This has to be worked out internally. You can build the best platform, you can build the best unified data center, but if your business units aren't prepared, you haven't advertised, you haven't educated, you haven't developed a plan which helps the business to make best use of this self-service IT, then you're not building a complete plan, and the plan will ultimately not be very successful. So this is a very large part. If you want to make this journey to the cloud, this journey to IT as a service, unified data center platforms work, you have to prepare the company internally to support this. and that's very, very important. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide, and that's just questions. So let me wrap up a little bit before we ask too many questions. We talked a little bit about the journey to the cloud, and I'd like to summarize a little bit. Delivery of cloud solutions requires significant changes to IT, to people, to processes. This transformation is a journey of multiple stages in which each step increases the readiness to fully support IT as a service and cloud computing. I'm going to go back to that slide because I want to make this point. Again, to fully support IT as a service and cloud computing. Along the way, IT managers have to rethink the way they're delivering these services. Business units have to rethink how they want to deploy their applications, to deploy their processes that are going to satisfy the end users, that keep the business competitive and provide value, strategic value, business value. Reliability of these underlying infrastructures is a concern, as is the end-to-end management of these systems, the fast transitions, the secure deliveries in these cloud environments. So these are daunting challenges for IT today, and in some cases they've got to be willing to tear down and rebuild infrastructure to support the current business environment and the business needs. I want to briefly talk about how to accelerate this and how to make this more advantageous to business in terms of this journey to the cloud and adopting unified data center. And unified data center, let's think of it as all-encompassing. It's both internal and external, maintaining internal cloud and private public cloud and complete external resources as well. So to accelerate this adaptation, many of the industry-leading vendors like EMC and NetApp, Cisco, VMware, VCE, which is a coalition of companies, deliver infrastructure packages. We'll call it converged architectures, which makes it easy to basically drop in a unified data center in a rip and replace for a business. Also, there are ways to get there incrementally, and there are ways to simplify. And some of those are the new HyperConverged environments that are available now from companies like Nutanix and SimpliVity. These HyperConverged environments are very powerful but small. So used in conjunction with the correct internal network fabrics, HyperConverged can be another easy to deploy and very cost-effective way to make this journey to the cloud, whether it's a complete internal self-contained private cloud, a public or private external cloud. Nearly all of these converged and hyper-converged environments lend themselves to making that connection and being able to deploy the IT as a service for ACI and SDN. So, sorry I kind of missed out on fully covering the journey to the cloud piece, but I wanted to make sure that we went over that. And the big reasons, in summary, is that with the cloud strategy, unified data center can provide you the absolute integration and adaptation of an environment that allows you to be very flexible. You can provide IT as a service internally. You can provide IT as a service internally and externally. You can provide data integrity, availability, and reliability, security, with the ability to be very agile. So, here at CORE, we have a lot of expertise in this, and we certainly would love to talk to you about how to adopt unified data center platform as a going forward as an IT infrastructure design that would enable you to be able to use Cisco's ACI and everyone else's software-defined network, SDN, and to more easily manage and maintain IT as a service by using these hybrid environments and by designing and building an intelligent data center. Okay, I'm going to now go to the next slide and ask if you have any questions. Feel free to send in questions. I'd be happy to answer them. Well, if there's no questions, I guess that will wrap everything up. Thank you for joining the webinar.
Great. So thank you, everybody. On behalf of myself and Clayton, we want to thank you for joining us and taking time to view our presentation. If you have any other questions, you can always reach out to marketing.team@corebts.com, and we'll get you pointed in the right direction. To see a calendar of upcoming events, please visit our website at www.corebts.com. Thank you.